Good evening and welcome to the webinar on an efficient factory with an integrated digital model, which is organized by Manufacturing Today and presented by Autodesk. When it comes to commissioning a factory, every detail could lead to setbacks or success. You need tools that will get you from planning to production smoothly and provide every chance to improve efficiency. A digital model of your factory lets you see equipment, production, layouts, building designs, and reality to capture data in a single view. Creating and managing a digital twin of factories is becoming a necessity. Key decision makers in manufacturing organizations face a major issue of poor visibility into their shop floor. As per the industry estimate, 42% of more of the top executives from the top global manufacturing companies say their biggest problem is poor visibility on their shop floors. Production data that is collected manually or is inaccurate or unreliable. Today in this webinar, we have experts from Autodesk as well as from various segments of manufacturing sector to share and discuss how to plan, build, and operate the factory based on integrated IIoT solutions. Without taking further time, allow me to introduce you to Kirti Malavuru. Kirti is a senior technical sales specialist at Autodesk with the Design and Manufacturing Solution Group, with a background in mechanical engineering and over 16 years of work experience. He's currently responsible to enable manufacturing customers to develop their digital roadmap. Over to you, Kirti.
Hey, thanks, Sujata. Let me just quickly share my screen. Thanks, Sujata, and thanks everyone for the introduction. First of all, let me welcome everybody who are part of this event. Thank you so much for joining. It's a very interesting topic, and we have an amazing lineup of speakers as well as industry experts who are going to talk about their vision, a reimagined vision of a very, very integrated factory and a smart factory that they are looking for. So that is the whole agenda and of this particular event. So, the whole idea, of this entire the reimagining of a factory is very, very relevant in this very fast-paced and a much more technologically advanced era that we are right now in, and that is where this whole concept comes into play, so that we can have a much more insights much before a factory is being even commissioned or even constructed. So that is the whole idea and the purpose of an integrated factory model. So without further ado, let me start with giving a brief introduction about what is our vision and strategy for an integrated factory model. My name is Kirti Malavuru. I'm the technology expert at Autodesk with a background in design and manufacturing. So let me just set the context in terms of currently where we are. So if you look at the factory floor or a production environment, it is always in a flux. It's always changing. It is constantly changing, and to cater for the newer requirements. It could be in terms of a new product launch. It could be in terms of a new addition of a line. To meet the various tremendous pressures in terms of demand or a seasonal change. On top of it, there are also a lot of initiatives that are run in terms of cost reduction. There's a lot of factory automation that is being looked into. A lot of initiatives around quality to ensure that you have the first time right kind of an approach. At the same time, another thing that is also becoming very, very complex is the overall supply chain system as well. So how are we able to map and also ensure that we have a much more streamlined approach when it comes to the overall supply chain systems as well? But the fact of the matter right now, in most of the factories, in most of the organizations that we see, there is a lack of collaboration at each and every level. It could be in terms of even within the teams or the various different stakeholders within an organization, where there is lack of collaboration. People are working in silos. The projects team is not talking to the layout team. The mechanical team is not talking to the engineering or the electrical team. So we see that there is a lack of integration that that is a must when it comes to a much more smarter factory. At the same time, technology is also not helping when it comes to there is a huge gap in the way platforms are talking to each other. So there is independent set of data that is being lying in each and every machine, which is not being consumed and reused, from which we can gain a lot of very, very useful insights from. At the same time, what we also see is that there is a lack of cooperation between various different industries. I'll give you an example. In most of the organization who are a owner operator or who are a factory owner, they have multiple teams, who are looking at the civil side of the overall projects. At the same time, there is a team who is looking at the manufacturing and the factory and the layout side of it. But seldom we see any kind of an interaction that happens between these two sides of the industry itself. There is hardly any kind of an integration, neither from a workflow standpoint, nor from a technology standpoint, across these two different streams of the stakeholders or the ecosystem. So now if we map the status quo of the current way in which, if we have to maybe plot out the life cycle of a factory, right from it being planned, constructed, commissioned, as well as till the end of life of it, what we see is basically independent teams which are working completely indifferent to various different other contributors for that particular project. The planning team is not connected to the design team is not connected to the construction team, and once everything is constructed, the operations and the maintenance, because you also have to maintain the assets. It could be in terms of buildings, it could be in terms of equipments. It is completely independent, and we see a huge disconnect. And the tools are also not helping. The tools that we are currently deploying and using is highly 2D centric, and a lot of office tools which doesn't properly give any kind of information that would be required for us to basically gain useful information about the working as well as the maintenance of any of the factory or a production flow. And the interesting part of it is, because they are disconnected, each and every stakeholder within an organization is basically creating different sets of data, which is not being reused or consumed by the other stakeholders to gain information from it, or even take advantage of the already created data that is available. We see a lot of data that is created by the production engineering team, the supplier integration, the vendor team, the external team, but those data are not being used, and they are basically a bunch of data that is just lying somewhere in the system. Now, all these things put together is basically creating a lot of barriers and pain points for most of the organization to basically quickly adapt to any of the changes that is required for them to be at the top of the game. Because right now, one thing that is very, very important and most talked about is how can we shrink down the time to market. And production and factory management plays a major role in gaining that operational efficiency. But these pain points, whatever is mentioned, are creating a lot of barrier in terms of adopting to newer introductions, mass customizations, coordination issues between the actual design as well as the as-built, shortage of labors, and data is becoming a mess for the IT team to basically manage and track who and where and when the data has been used and for what purpose. So with all these things that are creating challenges, these becomes a roadblock for any of the vision of an organization right now to move towards a digital factory and finally move towards their digital twin goal. So that, and what we have also seen with our experience with a lot of industries and a lot of enterprise customers, what we have seen, all these things are basically creating a lot of issues in terms of not meeting project deadlines, time is not being met. It is leading to a lot of cost overruns. And in some cases, what we have also seen, which is very unfortunate, is there is no clear definition of a project as well. So this is the as is state that we see. I'm sure a lot of people will also agree with me. I'm not saying that these things are not being done. A lot of things are being done, but it is mostly independent to that particular task or an activity. Breaking this barrier of a very, very siloed approach of a process to a much more streamlined and integrated way where we utilize a digital data at the center. So this is the concept of data at the center, where each and every stakeholder of the organization has a clear view of the project. There is utmost transparency. There are collaborations across the ecosystem who are responsible for the delivery as well as the maintenance of the project is by means of a strategy or an approach called as integrated factory modeling. So if I have to give a brief definition of it, what an IFM, we call it as an IFM or an integrated factory approach, is basically to have a very collaborative environment where multidisciplinary stakeholders are contributing to the project on a central data, which is always live, which is always up to date, and which helps each and every stakeholders in the life cycle of a factory to plan, to design, validate, build, operate, as well as maintain the assets that goes into the construction of a factory itself. And when we talk about the whole factory modeling, it is not just only optimization of the factory floor by means of to capture the throughput, but it starts from the right from my site development or land development stage where I'm building my infrastructure, where I am building a lot of where I'm building a lot of construction projects like buildings. I'm integrating with a lot of suppliers. It could be MEP, it could be HVAC, your piping, your structures, your lighting, as well as equipment. And finally, also helping in terms of optimizing the factory floor to have a better throughput, to have a better buffer system to ensure a streamlined operation of the overall flow. This is the approach that is of IFM, where data is at the center and each and every stakeholders who are responsible for the project. It could be the production engineering team, it could be the projects team who basically handle a lot of civil work, the logistics, vendor development. It could also be the suppliers, your equipment suppliers, building suppliers, or also people who participate in the construction. It could be in terms of architects, contractors, general contractors, subcontractors. All of them will be working on a centrally managed platform where data is standardized. It provides crucial information in terms of the overall tracking as well as accountability of each and every stakeholders at every phase of the life cycle. So if I have to kind of map out the entire life cycle of a factory, it starts with my planning to my designing, validation, building, and operation. And throughout this entire life cycle, there are a lot of streams of activities that happens, which helps in terms of ensuring that there are no delays, there are no time issues regarding time overruns or cost overruns. All these things will be captured in terms of your change management, in terms of your issue management. If you are in the construction and the operation stage, you need to also do spare part management, manage the life cycle of an asset. All those things categorically captured within a single source of truth through an approach of integrated factory modeling. If I have to very simply, say that, once this integrated factory modeling, this is again not a black box. It's not a closed loop system. You can again add intelligence by integrating with other platforms, make it much more smarter, make it much more useful so that you can derive much needed insights about the operation of a factory throughout its life cycle. If I have to kind of break it down in terms of what happens in each of these life cycle of a factory, basically it starts with my planning phase where I do my basic planning, to my design, validation, build, and finally operate it till the end of life of that factory. So I'll briefly, very briefly, I know, this is a very, very complex subject. Uh, Due to lack of time, I might not be able to touch upon each and every point of it in a much more detailed way. But what I'll do is basically touch upon some of these things in a very, very simplistic way so that you have a much more understanding of it. So if we take the planning phase, the planning phase starts with basically locating the geography, locating the site for us to start, let's say, a greenfield project. You do your site planning, your civil works, road works, your wastewater management. At the same time, you also start planning out your processes, your manufacturing processes, to ensure that you have a better throughput, you have much better control over the buffer system, you have much better control in terms of understanding if there are any anticipated bottlenecks that we can see during the fully functional stage of a factory. Once it is done, then we start creating a digital mock-up of the factory where it is entirely digital, where you are creating a digital representation of a factory. You can also integrating a lot of data that comes from external sources, supplier sources, both buildings as well as equipment. At the same time, this is a phase where you also look in terms of how do I start designing which is more sustainable, which can help me in terms of basically ensuring that I have a much more sustainable building as well as a green building. The next phase of it is basically in terms of reviewing the entire factory in its entirety while it is working, ensuring that there are no issues in terms of clashes, in terms of scheduling, as well as do a complete track of the production planning as well. So we call it as MES system, where you do the traceability of it, work orders, how the raw material is basically moving from one stage to other, who are responsible for each and every individual task. So you validate this entire process, and once it is validated, it moves to the build phase where you do the actual construction. Now, this is where slightly it kind of deviates because most of us are from the manufacturing background. This is where the construction management also comes into play and works hand in hand with the manufacturing to ensure that the factory is constructed and commissioned on time. Now, in this phase, it is very crucial to have a much more collaborative environment between the design team and the field team to monitor the progress of the project, do a live site management, as well as track all the issues that comes on site during construction and work towards to ensure that you have no surprises during the erection of the building. And the last phase of it is in terms of, with all this data that is created, how do I start utilizing this data from a digital factory into a digital twin, which is a replica of an operational factory, where you are basically conjuring up the data to throw more information in terms of maintenance, predictive maintenance, manage the entire life cycle of an asset, and at the same time ensure that you are operating and maintaining the entire factory, the operation of the factory smoothly. Very quickly, I'll go through, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. I'll go through some of the very good, customer values that they have derived out of having this kind of a strategy. The first one is from an EV startup company from Germany called as E.Go Life. They utilized the framework of an integrated factory modeling, where they were able to substantially reduce a lot of these manual activities and create a digital mock-up of the factory. And when I say factory, the entire factory, and they were able to achieve some amazing outcomes right from the concept of the factory till it is being built out in terms of maintaining project deadlines, very quick improvements whenever there are changes, and also help them in their business growth. And the way they did was going completely digital and utilizing the data that the digital factory gives into a digital twin platform to maintain and operate their entire factory in its entirety. Another example is from Safran. I'm sure most of you would know Safran. They are the second largest aircraft supplier manufacturer. Again, they utilized IFM as a strategy to basically map out their entire production planning. They were able to reduce time. They were able to maintain the budget for their entire factory commissioning. At the same time, they were able to increase the overall operational efficiency of the factory. Porsche is another example where they were able to complete the project in record time. At the same time, the amazing part about this particular example is they were also able to ensure that all their sustainability goals and initiatives were met in terms of zero carbon footprint as well as the impact aspect of it. And the last example is from Magnus Tire, who utilized the IFM strategy to basically manage the entire assets that goes inside the factory, at the same time streamline the workflow right from my process planning till it is being commissioned and delivered to the end customer. So the whole idea, so before I end my session, I know it was a very short session with a lot of content. The whole idea of an integrated factory modeling is to ensure that you as owner operators or factory owners have much more flexibility. You are able to be agile to the market needs and also ensure that you are able to complete the projects on time every time. So this has been my time. Thank you so much, Sujata.
Thank you, Kirti. That was really insightful. To all my audience, if you have any questions, do post it on our Q&A session. Kirti will be here to answer all your questions. Shivali, can we have the poll, audience poll, please?
Sujata, in the meantime, can I answer the questions? Is that okay?
Sure.
I see that, we have a question where they ask, like, is there a way where we can see the entire end to end of it? Absolutely. We can connect with you independently and, showcase right now, because of the laxity of time, we'll not be able to do that. But absolutely, we will connect with you and showcase that. For most of the questions, we will connect with you and help in terms of addressing your queries.
Please post your questions. We will be forwarding that to the Autodesk team, who will be answering to you directly on this. I will now go ahead and hand over the stage to Vijay Matthews, who is the director with Frost & Sullivan. Vijay is an expert in tracking and monitoring latest trends related to Industry 4.0, data analytics, predictive maintenance, and smart factories and blockchain technologies across a wide range of industries, including oil and gas, aerospace, automotive, manufacturing, and industrial markets. Vijay, over to you.
Thank you for that excellent presentation. It's really been an eye opener for me. Mainly because things like digital factories, digital twins, digital modeling is not really a technology by itself, but more of a concept that utilizes various technologies like sensors, AI, AR, VR, simulation, and so on, and for the implementation of digital twinning. So in many ways, it's similar to Industry 4.0, and usually concepts are a little bit harder to define and understand, um, and in which way they can apply to industries, and what are the best ways in which they can be used in terms of adding productivity benefits. So that was a great introduction, and I think that was very helpful to set the tone for this panel discussion. With that, I'd like to thank all of our attendees who have joined us today, and also our panel members for taking time out from their busy schedules to be here. We have a very experienced panel here today from diverse representation, as from various industries, but also we have technology enablers in our midst as well. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion, I'm sure. So with that, I would like to give it the chance for our panel members to introduce themselves. Maybe we can start with Anup.
Sure, Vijay. Hi everyone, I am Anup. I am representing Varroc Engineering. I am heading EHS and Operational Excellence for Varroc Group as a Vice President for entire operations, including India and global.
Okay, so I will now ask Saibal, can you please introduce yourself?
Hey, hi, I am Saibal Roy. I head the north and east part of the business for B2B for Airtel Business. And I also head nationally the manufacturing vertical within Airtel Business.
Great, thank you. Smriti?
Hi, good evening to everyone. My name is Smriti Sakamuri, currently the General Manager at Hyundai Vacuum. We're a vacuum technology company that builds machines, components, and thin films for the aerospace, space, and defense sectors.
Great, thank you. Dr. Guru, please.
Hi, this is Dr. Balakrishna. I'm handling corporate EHS and sustainability. I am from KCP Cements Limited, Andhra Pradesh.
Okay, and finally, Sanjeev.
Thank you. My name is Sanjeev Ghosh, and I am a technical account manager at Autodesk, managing key accounts. And I've been in Autodesk for a while with a total industry experience of about 25 years. Happy to be a part of this panel and good to see some eminent panelists to interact with. Thank you.
Okay, so let's get into the discussion. So when we talk about digital twins and integrated factory modeling, it really feeds into this trend of digitization of industries. And as we know, in the industrial landscape, it is defined by continuous innovation, whether it's from pneumatic to electronic controls, from relays to PLCs, all the way now from closed architectures to open architectures. The results have been quite astounding, and we have all seen the massive transformation over the last decade. But the whole goal of digital transformation is for factories to make better decisions in real time. So it sounds like a very simple process, but as we know, digital transformation can be a very complex, multi-dimensional and multi-stage process. So with that I would like to lead into my first question, and I would like to pose this to each of our panel members, is to talk about the digital transformation journey for each of your organizations. How did you start? When did you start? What was the challenges you faced and some of the learnings that have come out of that might be helpful to our audience here today. So maybe we can start with Dr. Guru. Yes, from your experience as being part of the process industries, can you give us your experience based on that?
Basically, I am belongs to cement manufacturing organizations. It's a group of organizations, a mechanical engineering supporting organization, and it contains a lot of huge machinery. Initially, there is no specific digitalization in this field actually. Later on, the digitalization has started like a digital process expert model. It was that is the first initiative model actually in the process to understand the process of the cement actually, because it is a process based organization, and the product is something different. It is something different from the other organizations actually, means other industries. The thing is that this digital process expert we have started in the 2011. It basically tells us what is the process is going on, how to control the process, feed up the process, is everything in a one click away. Basically, it was supplied by the cement manufacturers actually. That means KHD Germany, they are the cement manufacturers, and this is a customized application first of all. And the thing is that due to that reason, we are using the customer application with some compromises also. And later on in the later on stages, we initiated, we start modifications. We got somehow advanced versions in the same, and we started to procure them, and we started to use. 2018, we procured one robotic models actually. We initiated a robotic lab also. In the 2018-19, we started robotic lab. Initially, we started with a single robot, which is a good result-oriented robot. And later on, we are impressed with that robot, and we initiated one robotic lab. By initiating that robotic lab, we are obtaining so many results. Like it is a time saving. First of all, the quality is very accurate. The quality is very accurate, and it itself do everything. Like it collects the sample, it prepares the sample, and optimum use of the material. The one of the benefit from it. And these are the benefits we obtain from the robotic lab, as well as the development in ECS digital process expert. It is one of the model which I have initially informed that. That is one of the model which is also one of the informative model, and it gives us the clear picture about your process, and it solves the process related issues and highlight any issue and any ambiguity in the process. If you have anything, any problem inside the process, it will immediately make an alarm, and it will immediately alert us. Immediately we can have a act against that, instead of wasting our time to identify the root cause. That's all from my side. But there is a key challenges. There is a key challenges in this process actually. This software, as I told you, that doesn't address some of the points. Like it doesn't address the safety, like process safety, as well as the physical safety of the manpower. And second one is that it doesn't address life cycle assessment of the material, life cycle assessment of the machine, life cycle assessment of the product. This is a second one of the drawback. And third one is it doesn't have any control on emission parameters. These are the some of the challenges actually. And later on, by making some internal changes, you can say, by internal changes, right now we are using advanced model, that is 8.3 version. In this, we have getting some up to some extent, but not fully satisfactory results in these three gaps actually.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for talking about your implementation of digital solutions, how it has helped you, and also some of the challenges that you're facing. Smriti, I would like to pose the same question to you as a manufacturer of vacuum equipment. I can imagine that using digital technologies within your processes is quite relevant to your organization. So, could you talk about that and how has that journey been for you so far?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, Vijay. So, Hyundai Vacuum is actually an almost 60-year-old family-owned business, and I recently got involved about 4 years ago. And I guess manufacturing over time has dramatically changed. But in the beginning, things were really done on paper, and when I had joined, things were very much Excel and tally based. Excel is the solution that everyone loves to use as an immediate fix, and then you kind of get stuck on it. And after I had come in, I had seen, one of the challenges that Keithy had highlighted, that everyone really just operates in silos because information really isn't flowing across cross-functional teams. And the most simple form of digitization, which I thought was really necessary for us to understand where product was stuck, where material was stuck. We build systems that can take 2 years to build with over 10,000 components that have very complex processes and very specific requirements. And understanding where material is became a huge challenge for us, especially since we started moving from building, 10 machines to 30 machines. And we actually looked into implementing an end-to-end ERP system. Very easy at that point because there were many options when I had come in, and I do believe that in the past there were only one or two options that were really existing in terms of ERP. Being an MSME, cost was a huge barrier for entry for us, and we managed to stumble upon a solution that allowed us to enter quite quickly with very low investment into hardware like servers, etc., into a system that allowed us to track everything from purchase all the way through production, quality, and the shipment of the item. Definitely a huge challenge. We had to digitize over 60 years of data in terms of material that we used, components that we used, drawings that we have. And that history and theory of change that has gone into all those parts was actually very important for us to get onto a standardized platform that everyone had access to. So this allowed us to link all our teams digitally, and everyone from purchase to finance to production were all like looped in onto one cycle. That was our journey. I was still going on it, so it's been a great learning experience.
Great. Thank you for that, Smriti. So I will now come to Anup with that same question. You are in the automotive components manufacturing space. We all know automotive is a huge user and beneficiary of using digital technologies. Can you talk about your experience and your organization, how it has implemented these technologies over the years?
Sure, Vijay. Thanks, Vijay. So I'll just give about Varroc so that people can connect better what kind of industry we are in. So we are mostly in two-wheeler and four-wheeler automotive parts, and we have almost 28 facility in India and 9-10 abroad. So this is a spread, and you can understand the volume in two-wheeler on day-to-day basis and complexity we need to handle. And one of our vertical is in critical electronics parts like engine control units, and another is critical parts like engine walls, critical transmission assembly. There's a complexity of product I'm talking about as a Varroc we are heading. So we started like ERP, if you consider that as a digitalization, we started that way back in 2005, 2006. We are on SAP. But I'm considering IoT and further data, real-time data as a start point for digitalization of our processes. We started this journey in 2017 as a small project for connecting the machine for one of critical product line. And start point was two major points to address. One is traceability of the product, because if one CDI or one engine control unit, one defect occurs, the vehicle will be on road. So really a defect we cannot afford as a manufacturer of such a critical part. So we started with the traceability. That was a critical ask because one electronics parts is a black box and almost more than 1,000 components going inside that product. And you have to trace back even one minor component to that batch level. So that quickly you can understand whether it's a problem because of X part, Y part, because of OEM, because of our process, to giving that response to the customer quickly and with the exact, say, data points, not as a saying something, was a critical ask for that requirement. And another point was, I'm sure maybe most of company facing that. The real OE or utilization of the plant may be differ. When you connect the machine, getting the actual utilization of your plant will be totally different. So that was the start point. As a Varroc, we started this journey way back 2017. If I talk about our learnings and maybe some concerns which others can maybe learn from it, is first thing we need to understand where to start. Because if people down the line will not understand the use of it and ask of it, they will not adopt it. So you can say, to understand the right point where to start and address a pain point is the one thing which we could learn and we could start right. Second point is collaboration between IT and OT. Some company feel it is IT work, some company feel it is OT work, but really it is a collaboration. IT cannot do anything alone, or OT cannot do, operations team cannot do anything alone. So these are the 2-3 points which we face some challenges, could address properly, and we could progress well. That's all for this point. I think we'll maybe elaborate more later if required.
Thank you, Arun. Very, very helpful. So now I will go to. It will be interesting to get your viewpoint on this, Saibal, as a telecom provider and a provider of 5G solutions. Your position in a very interesting way. I mean, one is as an organization, your own digital transformation journey, and then you are also a technology provider that enables industries in their own digital transformation journey as well. So if you could talk about that from that point, from also, understanding how it has been for your organization and also how the requirements of some of the industrial companies that you work with, how has that evolved over the years?
Thank you, Vijay, and thank you for having me on the panel. It's really exciting to be here. And let me tell you from a telecom standpoint, because we are a telecom service provider, though this company started off in 1995, telecom cannot sustain without digitization. So it has to be hand in hand. That's the way the entire journey is. So when the first SIM was perhaps launched in the country, or first mobile phone call happened, then also digitization happened at that point of time. So we are perhaps married to digitization, but there have been various forms and shape of digitization, I'd say. There are various versions of digitization which has happened. Maybe the way we talk about Industry 4.0, perhaps in the telecom scenario, we had various standpoints of digitization. That's what I can tell you. And it's been a very, very interesting journey. I can talk about, and it's a very, very interesting topic to talk, and perhaps the entire 1 hour I can take, but I don't want to do that. But I can perhaps take you through what the basic principles which we worked on. That is more important rather than the output perspective. Obviously, output is, you can all see today, any SIM gets, you're doing a telephone call, without digitization, we cannot sustain. It's all about the volume. How do you manage the volume? How do you give an effective customer experience all about? So if I may say what we actually looked at, there are basic 3 principles we looked at. One was we had to have a clear and aspirational goal. So what we wanted to was that we wanted to have, say, a 3x improvement on where we are. So, because that's a cohort which we have to create within our system. And I'll steal the words what JP talked about. It is again collaboration and cohesiveness. Without that, digitization cannot sustain. Now, why I say that, that's a very important perspective, because digitization, when we say, it has to be a part of the business. It cannot be a separate track. You have to, the definition of digitization would be, it cannot be a different business altogether. Once you start thinking about digitization, then only things it will get embedded into it. So rather than having the second point, which I want to say, rather than having a program, let's have a mindset. That's the principle we talked about. So it's like every business guy was talking about digitization. Every person in the organization is talking about digitization. So that's the way it happened. So first is, how do we identify what are the problem statements and what are the solutions to that? And third, of course, we also created a lot of, CFTs, a smaller CFTs. Now these CFTs actually were cracking some problems. And the cohort which was created in the CFTs was perhaps the younger generation of the lot. So because the propensity of the younger generation is always that they would like to crack problems and crack solutions. And as a CXO or a strategic level, you can only give direction and perhaps your goals which are there, and that definitely helped us. So in a nutshell, if I may say, what we thought about, customer backwards thinking. So something like, you think what the customer is thinking about, what he wants, and from there you do a reverse engineering, and the digitization will happen. Number two was, we actually simplified because there is a lot of processes which were created initially, but there has to be a declutter of that process. So simplify that first, and then make the digitization. That's the second part. That's not the first part. And finally, get people from digitalization, from digital first organization with a collaborative mindset. That's the basic thing, if I may say, in the gist of it. So this was the first part of your question, which you talked about, Vijay. Now you talk about what do we do to propel the digitization, perhaps for the industry as such. Obviously, we have, with the 5G coming into domain and play, there's enough and more to be done for 5G. With 5G, because ultimately the biggest advantage of 5G which comes in, one is lowest latency and highest of bandwidth are in a wireless modus operandi. So that actually enables any and every industry to have, if I may say, within a factory, how can you have a connected factory? Today, the challenge is, if you have to create a factory, perhaps you will have to wire the entire factory to connect all machines to each other. But when we can give you a private network with the 5G being there, or perhaps even 4G being there, we can give you a complete connected private factory, whereby you can have complete digitization also. Because for any digitization to happen in any factory, there are all the components, or perhaps all the machines have to talk to each other. For that, you need connectivity. And specifically speaking, in factory areas, the connectivity is not up to the mark. But if you have to connect, you do your own fiber rollout. That's what you do. But then what actually the negative part of that is that you get your plant or your assembly line gets fixated to that. So you don't get fungibility or flexibility in the assembly line. But with a wireless network available for you for that factory, across the factory, then you can have fungibility of your assembly line. So today, say some component or some machine is required for some X process, that same component or same machine could be required for a Y process. Then you are not fungible when you are getting on a wired connectivity. But with a wireless there, you can do all that. And I'll just give you an example. We actually have done this for Nokia factory in Chennai, where we have actually connected, classically speaking, and I'm sure all the industry experts on the panel will agree, that if you want to have connectivity all across, you generally deploy industrial Wi-Fi. That's the normal perspective which you do. But what we've done is that, I'll just give you an example for Nokia factory. It's a 140,000 square kilometer factory, whereby what we did was, in fact, if you have to connect that entire factory, we were supposed to deploy 54, access points of industrial Wi-Fi. But in spite of what the negative point of industrial Wi-Fi is, that you will have a lot of black spots which will happen, because there will be no seamless migration of the network which will be there. And obviously, once you don't have the network, the mobility gets refrained. It is not a sustainable movement which can happen. So with a wireless network, what I'm saying is, what we did was that we culled out the spectrum and created a private network for that particular factory area. Instead of 54 APs, we just put in 2 small cells, which is a device from the radio perspective. And post that, that factory today, everything is connected. You talk about which are the applications which are running. You talk about digital twin, it is running. You talk about inventory management, it is running. You talk about robotic management, it is running. You talk about access management, it is running. So there are n number of things which are running, and this is the benefits which are there. The people are deriving out of that is, I'll just give you some data points on that. 31,000 man hours have been saved. Why it has been saved? Because ultimately, when you have to move various aluminum castings or something as such, they used to have AGVs. They've now got into AIVs. Now, because with the network available all across the factory, the AIV can move around the entire factory anywhere and everywhere. There is no pre-designated path. You can control that across. So there is a 23 kilometer, that's an average, a 23 kilometer of distance, which this AIV runs around in that particular factory premises. And this is all automated. There are robots available who are doing all this from a digital twin perspective. If you do, this is actually a radio manufacturing plant. So in that, you would see that there's a lot of soldering which you will do on the SMT PCBs. Now with the digital twin being there, what will actually happening is the advantages on wastage is going down drastically, because during the process of manufacturing itself, which is the soldering, the humidity and the dry soldering is being taken care of. Because there is a simulation happening of the actual product which is finished good by a camera, and goes to the particular server there itself, and you can put the image simulation there, and under the production itself it is corrected. So there is hardly any wastage which is coming in. So there are n number of perspectives like this which are being taken care of. So that is perhaps the if I may say, it's in a different, I would say it's in an area where we are at the cusp of the industry 4.0 revolution with 5G coming in. And I'm sure this will definitely be into a different level altogether. I definitely see every industry will adopt it. It is perhaps at a concept stage right now, but with the 5G coming in, this is just going to be revolution. That's what my, if I may say, if I am the, I have to give a futuristic view, this is what it looks like. And I have seen examples that you start with, say, 4 use cases, but it can go up to 800 use cases in the same plant. So that's the power of Industry 4.0 with telecom being.
Okay, thank you, Saibal, for that. Very interesting prospects in store for us from the looks of it. Sanjay, if I want to come to you now, I mean, in light of what Saibal was saying, many of these things are at concept stage. Some are progressed more than the others. And for example, digital twins as a concept has been around for over a decade. And I think the first time it was coined was in 2010, and even before that, NASA was using it in many of their programs. But only in recent times, I would say in the last 5 years or so, it has been widely talked about at different industry events, at different forums. It seems to be at a culmination point. So can you give us some insight into why you think that is happening at the moment?
Thank you so much for this question. In fact, the question itself is interesting because while digital twins have been around for over a decade, as you said rightly, but only in the recent times have we seen the adoption and an interest, accelerated interest in getting digitized. Now, what we believe is that this has all happened because of the disruptions that we have seen in the past couple of years. The way we work, the way supply chains operate, the way we were pushed into a black swan event like the pandemic. And there are a lot of other things like the climate change that's happening, demographic pressures, shifting customer priorities. All these are contributing. The disruption in these areas are contributing to people getting interested in accelerated digitalization. And digital twin is just one of the ways of getting digitalized. As we heard from, for example, if I were to quote back what Mr. Sharma said about the first and most important challenge that he mentioned, and that also leads to the point, why are we thinking of it today? So was there a need to understand where we wanted to start? So while everyone wants to have a digital twin infrastructure, where do we really start? And that all these disruptions that I talked about, including the pandemic and a lot of other pressures that we are under, have really made people interested to think, is this the right time to start? And people are perhaps realizing that this is the right times to start, which has been also complemented by the enhancements of technology that Saibal talked about. While we might be interested to do a certain thing, but was there enough technology available to support the initiatives? And for example, the examples that Saibal talked about, and the very interesting example of the Nokia factory that he mentioned, I think the dots are getting now connected. We have the will. There is a reason. There are those disruptions that have occurred that have enabled or even prompted us to really think through about our digitalization journey and why we need to accelerate it. Are there the right elements to build the story? Is there the right infrastructure? All these things are getting connected. The technology to support a proper digital twin infrastructure is now getting there in place. So these are some of the things I believe are driving us to adopt a digital twin faster as compared to what we were perhaps doing or even thinking about a couple of years back. So that's my take on why things are happening fast today.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sanjeev. That makes a lot of sense. Similar question to you, Dr. Guru. What do you think some of these trends that are driving, digital twins for digitization, and especially since the topic today is more about digital factories and digital twins, can you tell me a little bit about how long your organization has used digital twins, and has the impact increased over the years?
Actually, this is just a thinking level for MNC and as major groups. The digital twin, you can say, digitalization is just a it is a facility, and whereas the small industries, you can say, or MSME, SMEs, they felt a little bit burden about this digitalization, because they felt it is a little bit costly, and as we all know that the Indian market is somehow it is some volatile nature. It has some volatile nature, and they want to sustain in the business. And by obtaining this digitalization, they felt it is a little bit costly, because these are all importing technologies, and if the cost is directly or indirectly affect on the product end. So if they want to sustain the market, they want to they're feeling that the manual method is somehow better. Actually, unknowingly, the MSME industries are going to the digitalization. It is unknowingly, they're all involving actually. For example, let me say some examples actually. Installation of digital water meter for all their water meters and water usage actually. This is one of the small example. You can say that digitalization. They're working towards the digitalization. And second one is the installation of the digital analyzer for the STP and ATP. See, the thing is that itself collect the sample and itself analyze the reports and itself upload the reports to the cloud actually. And similarly, installation of online emission monitoring stations. This is
I think we lost Dr. Guru.
Yes, I think he's probably has a bad connection. Okay,
Yeah.
I will move on, and I'll get back to him when he comes back. So Sanjeev, I'm going to ask you this: as Autodesk over the years, how has
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Guru, I will come back to you let me finish the question and I will come back to you in a few minutes.
This actually, I don't know. Uh,
Dr. Guru, I think your audio is not. Dr. Guru, I think your audio is not clear. I think there is a connection problem.
Is it okay now? Is it okay now? Is it okay now?
Yes.
Hello.
Now
Is
it's
it okay
better.
now?
Yes.
Yeah, much better.
Actually, what I'm feeling that they are knowingly unknowing involving in the digitalization, like by installing digital water meter, digital LIS for STP, ETP, digital installation of online emission monitoring stations, installation of digital ambient air quality monitoring stations. These are all digitalization. In fact, they don't know that they are unknowingly involved with this actually. The main force behind it, what I felt is somehow the legal bodies also. The legal body are insisting some points actually to do this, to do that, and I would like to say these what is the technologies are easily available in the local market right now. Initially, these are all in the I mean, need to import these technologies right now. These are all easily available in the local market. This is one of the important scenario I would like to mention here. So localization of the technology is one of the important aspect to achieve the digitalization in India. This is first. I would like to conclude this and like to move actually. I have one more important aspect. While we digitalization in India and we will see the better future within 5 to 10 years in India. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Guru. Right. So, Sanjeev, my question to you was, what I was coming to, in further to what Dr. Guru was saying. I just want to understand from Autodesk point of view, in terms of your customer requirements and how you think things have how has the landscape changed? I mean, what are the typical use cases of digital twins from your various customers? What are the key benefits they have been seeing? Is it mostly in terms of reduction of defects, performance optimization, reduction in project cost, timing, etc.? What are some of the evolutions you have seen on this front?
Thanks, Vijay. And I represent Autodesk, and we all are familiar that there are other similar service providers around the globe that provide and enable our customers in the digital asset creation. Now, today I'm talking about digital asset creation, but sometime back it was all about creating a 2D drawing. It evolved into creating a 3D model and deriving some value out of that 3D model as a digital asset. Then subsequently, we started talking about the digital twin, where we took that 3D model and tried to establish connection between a digital model that was designed by a team of engineers to the physical world by having various sensors or having various information flowing back into the digital model to be represented correctly, which helped us to take decisions and so on. Now, the biggest challenge I saw with the customers, another reason why digital twin was not getting adopted so fast, and only a few companies that had the money power to essentially take action, was because of the fact that digital twin involved integration of a lot of things, right? There's the integration of the digital model that was created. There are various systems, and it involves infrastructure costs, like the ones mentioned by several, the connectivity issues, the physical servers, and so on. So what we have seen is that customers are they want a digital twin, definitely, but they are not able to derive an ROI from the process that is involved in setting up a digital twin. That was one of the biggest, I would say, drawbacks or something that stopped them from really taking a step ahead. Now, what is changing for our customers is that uh, today, in today's scenario, the solutions that, let's say, Autodesk or other customers or other companies like us offer, we offer a complete platform, which means that the hassles of having to uh, have physical hardware and infrastructure to host a digital model for being able to accessed by various stakeholders. That was itself a big challenge. Now there are elements of the platform that help people to simply leverage a SaaS based platform that is available for you to easily connect to, access anywhere. And there are tools such as web-based APIs that help you to connect to other systems. So the scenario is where a couple of years back, where we had disparate systems and system integrators trying to make sense of how to connect and transmit information back and forth between the digital and the physical model. Today, they are supported by the evolution of various kinds of platforms that have inbuilt capabilities. Now, that is a really big change that has happened, and customers are now trying to leverage platform rather than trying to build things on their own, trying to invest in hardware that supports this platform. All that is taken care by tools and technologies that are enabled using the cloud and the SaaS based infrastructure. So these are some of the changes that I have seen over the period of years.
Okay, great. Thanks. It's great to see these advances, and which are definitely driving adoption of these solutions. Smriti, I would like to come to you and just to understand in your organization, how have you used digital twins? I mean, did you have experience using simulation tools before? Did you progress and advance to digital twins? And what are the connections you see there? And do you think that digital twins will completely replace simulation? Sorry, and will it be used in collaboration? What are some of the challenges you face in this? Just your perspective on this topic.
Yeah, thanks, Vijay. So in terms of our utilization of digital twins in our organization, I would say it's fairly low at the moment. And the reason is we have been depending on simulations to run some of the environmental challenges that our product would go through. And we have been looking into the new factories that we are going to be establishing. So looking at, actually using digital twins as a concept to like start building and developing this as a greenfield project. Most of the platforms and manufacturing sites that we have been established for very long periods of time. And therefore, reworking that backwards into a digital twin didn't seem as cost effective to us at that point of time. So moving forward, it is something that we are looking to. As an MSME, the biggest barrier, and I think Dr. Guru also touched upon this, is cost, right? Digital twins, digitization are long-term costs that actually have short-term impacts. And when I say that, I mean in terms of your immediate cash consumption, it's a very large cash consumption, which will obviously have positive effects in the long term. But sometimes for small industries, sinking that amount of cash and locking that up might not be beneficial. And so while I do understand that technology has advanced a lot in the last many decades, before you needed a server to actually store data, today you can do it on a cloud. There are teams that can access you and you can access them remotely. So access to this technology has definitely become much easier. And I also see that costs have been, coming down. So that would probably be our only challenge, or a challenge for an MSME to enter that kind of space. Another challenge I foresee is also, while I think digital twins are fantastic, and I think there are a great number of use cases and applications, there is a lot of learning that the existing manufacturing teams have to go through. So sometimes that, bridge between the physical world and the digital world, while is easy, like on your phone, sometimes becomes very hard to really conceptualize in a manufacturing space when people have really been working day to day physically on a product in a factory. So to suddenly see it run on a digital platform and be like, is that really going to happen, becomes the kind of mindset change and a learning that I think that people need to go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Smriti. That's very interesting to get the perspective of of the user of digital twins and how they have adopted it and what are the challenges they have faced. Anup, I have a similar question to you in terms of your organization and how you use digital twins. What are the benefits you have seen so far, and what do you think the adoption of this technology in terms of modeling and factory modeling, is that something that your organization is looking into?
Vijay, definitely we see a lot of benefit of adopting digital twins, but honestly speaking, we have to still travel some more distance to reach to a use of digital twins in our organization. We are now in a phase of maybe using some part of it in silos for some applications, but not as a complete digital twin status for as an organization. As far as use of it, the benefit of digital twins comes to my mind, or as per our digitalization roadmap as an organization, we definitely see use in a different engineering applications. So the major part of engineering teams or major input as an engineering team to operate effectively is they should be able to see the data throughout, overseeing the data throughout from different, say, users, machine manufacturers, customer perspective. Seeing that data in a right perspective in a one platform is really helpful for them to develop a new product, new solution, maybe new machine, ordering that new machine based on the historical data of current machines. So we are working on those lines to adopt this digital twins concept for some of application. Mainly we are working with PLM, we are working with IoT, then we have to come to that cloud computing to have that historical data. Those all things we are working on.
Right.
But are we using that as a real matured model? No. Still we have to travel some distance to reach to that level. But definitely
Right.
in current scenarios, if you ask me, the way things are changing in India for manufacturing sector, be it because of different geopolitical situations, maybe because of India plus one strategy, every company had to grow fast. If who will move fast, who will move quickly in a right direction with the right data, will be the real winners. There are a lot of opportunity. So we definitely see opportunity there for us, because as a Vero, we are growing better than industry, and we have a quite I would say we are a growth oriented company. We are growing fast. So to meet that pace of growth, to meet that quality requirement, changing quality requirement, seeing in China plus one strategy is not going to be easy task. You have to compete in a global market with a global standard of quality, global standard of emissions, global standard of sustainability. Those factors come into picture. And as a manufacturing professional, I can very easily understand, without this kind of platform, with this kind of data support, it would be very easy. It would not be very easy to really reach to that level and really take advantage of these opportunity. But now market is throwing on every, say, good manufacturer. So we are working on that, but we are not in a very matured stage of digital twins. That honestly I'll share about our organization.
Right. Sanjeev, back to you on this. I mean, hearing some of the comments of the panel members and what is generally known in terms of the maturity of digital twins and the fact that it is cost prohibitive at the moment. Also, training and some level of skills education and development on that front is required. How do you see that changing, and what are some of the trends that you think will help address these issues?
So, to reiterate some of the points that were mentioned, let us look at why do even digital twin initiatives fail sometimes. Because while there is a thought process, there is lack of stakeholder support. We are trying to change too much too fast, and we are focusing on technology rather than the problem statement. So these are some of the things that we have observed where people, they have the right thoughts in terms of initiatives, but are not able to materialize those thoughts into reality because of some of these reasons. So what is important for an organization to really succeed is have and define their business goals, as rightly articulated by Mr. Anup, by Mr. Guru, and Mr. Smriti, Ms. Smriti, and what is it that we want to achieve? What are the insights that we are trying to capture? What are the metrics that we really want to monitor? So all these things have to be defined, understood, getting a buy-in from all the stakeholders involved, and then only comes the piece where technology is leveraged to solve the problem. So what I would say, what has changed or what is evolving is that the accessibility of technology, the way it was there, a couple of years back or even a decade back, things are changing. Things are now getting more connected to the cloud. Accessibility of information in a browser without having to really install a software on a machine, just by having a login wherever I am, even when I'm not on my system, but getting access to the information from my organization easily is something that is becoming more and more popular. And most of the applications are moving in that direction, where we are leveraging the cloud. So now to support this, we need so as an enabler, we provide tools that help customers to create information, create the digital models, the models of the equipment, models of the factory, models that have metadata, that have information to manage those assets and so on. So how can we get these models onto a cloud interface? How can we make them accessible in a browser? How can we give access to this information to various stakeholders based on their level in the organization? How can we connect all this to the relevant pieces of technology so that a complete digital infrastructure is set up? So this is where we are working on, and we are evolving more from a product-centric approach to a platform-centric approach, where we are saying that, yes, while we have tools that help you to create information, what you should be looking at more than the specific point tools, you should be looking at the platform as a whole, so that you get benefits for the end-to-end process, rather than having to spend time in taking that data, trying to figure out how the connectivity happens, and then spending a lot of time and infrastructure setting up that hardware and hardware infrastructure in your company to derive those goals. So looking at a platform approach is something that we feel is going to be the way forward, rather than having to look at individual pieces of technology that need to be stitched together. So this is a big change that is happening. Autodesk is definitely putting a lot of effort in connecting and building that platform, where our customers, whether they are using Autodesk solutions or Autodesk tools or not, can use the Autodesk platform to build an integrated digital twin infrastructure for themselves using a SaaS-based model. So these are some of the things that are evolving, changing in the situation that and the technologies that are there, that are happening, things that are happening today in the world. Vijay.
Okay, okay. Thank you. I mean, the platform-based approach does sound very interesting. Okay, Anup, I would like to come to you again to get the MSME perspective on this. There is so much talk about the digital revolution, how things are changing. I would like to understand if MSMEs feel part of this revolution, do they get enough support from the government in terms of regulation, in terms of standardization, in terms of cohesiveness of various ecosystems. I would like to get your perspective on that. I mean, MSMEs do form the backbone of India's manufacturing, and then it's important that we take the MSMEs along with us on India's digital industrial revolution. So, I'd just like to hear from you, Anup. What do you think the role of MSMEs can be in this digital transformation?
I agree. MSME is the backbone for Indian economy and for any manufacturer. They are dependent on, maybe degree may vary, but they are dependent on MSMEs. And as Smriti mentioned, major concern for MSME is their cost structure, their cash availability, their cash flows, their free cash flows. So one part is government support. Definitely government is also coming out so many schemes, incentives for MSMEs in terms of some tax benefit, in terms of some other incentives to adopt, because they understand. You may buying 80% or 90% of your product from larger players. Even if your one part is maybe depending on MSMEs, you cannot survive. That is one. And MSME is the largest employment generator for the country. So everybody has to support MSMEs. This is a government support. The point I'm trying to say major is larger organization also has to support MSMEs. They may not individually go about adopting lot many digital platforms, the digital tools. But in my sense, bigger company will adopt those digital tools, maybe digital twins. If they're dependent on critical as MSME, they will extend to those. One example I'll give is a very common use of vendor portal. Very common name you will heard common in the industry. So where they're trying, every company is trying to monitor their inventory, their different parameters through that portal. Company developing and giving to the MSMEs. So here MSME is in everybody's in everybody's thought process, be it government, be it the larger organization, be it MSME himself. Another point, MSME also need to, maybe they start understanding that, realizing that their cost structure will improve once they understand what the real cost of production for them. Like one part of cost is their skilled manpower, and again challenge is to retain, not only get that trained manpower in digital or some other critical technical skills, to retain that. So if they start accumulating that skill data, which are maybe people are leaving and taking that skills with him, so it's always a cost loss for every company. So from that point of view, MSME himself also start realizing they are coming up, even they understand this is a cost, maybe immediately, maybe some cash flow, cash outflow, but in real sense, it is giving immediately edge to maybe progress better to the next level with the good customers, different products. Another perspective, different companies are providing those platforms for MSMEs on a, like Sanjeev mentioned, on a SaaS basis. They need not to give or invest heavily at the start of the project or do something. They have to just take some subscriptions. So with this, I think there are more communication between different interested parties, maybe through government departments, maybe through bigger suppliers, bigger customers. That communication is happening, and people are making sure MSME also adopt that quickly, because there's a complete chain. If that link is weak, as a complete value chain, we cannot success. we cannot reach that success. So with that understanding, be it different stakeholder, government, local, maybe solution providers, customers, everybody's coming together to make this success, and MSME out of that digital twins or those critical part of transformation journey, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Very, very interesting insights. Smriti, I would like to ask you to comment as well. Anup had some very interesting insights there, and I wonder if you are able to relate to some of those comments. What are your thoughts in terms of, as an organization, do you feel that the ecosystem and the ability to scale as an MSME with these technologies and government support is there, or is there still a lot of work that needs to be done to bring MSMEs along in our digital transformation journey?
Yeah, so I think, we went through our digitization with very limited government intervention. And I think, Mr. Roy had mentioned earlier that there are different types of digitization and transformation, right? So if you look at today's GST platform, it's really forced an entire range of MSMEs to digitize their payments and their e-way bills. And suddenly you're getting all this data online. I think for platforms like that, there is government support, and it has been something that can be scaled. But if we're looking at slightly more sophisticated systems, when you're looking at ideas like digital twins, or if you're looking at large-scale data analysis, a lot of people don't have the ability to do data analysis on large Excel files, or even with large amounts of data that come to you. Even if I read like a report with like 30 pages, it takes me time to like really go through it and understand it. So even for MSMEs, giving them information, giving them tools, if they're not trained adequately, and if that training is not done in a simple and in an efficient way, it becomes very hard to actually absorb these tools into a system. It becomes something that you do as a fad, as a one time, and then slowly you just kind of drift back into your natural way or the way you were doing things before. So I think for certain things, the government has definitely made it easier to process payments, to upload payments and see that kind of data online. And if systems are kept simple like that for more sophisticated models, then I think there is opportunity to scale. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Smriti. Just a quick time check here. Sujata, how are we on time?
We are not on time. We are supposed to be doing only till 6 o'clock.
Okay.
We have few questions which are there. Would you want to take that on?
Sure.
Okay, I think Kirti has already answered most of the questions, but if anybody else wants to answer those questions, they are open to. Rakesh Vishwanathan had asked, can we do process simulation with it? Kirti, would you like to answer that?
Hey, hi, Sujata. I have already answered Mr. Rakesh, but yes, we do have platforms which can help in terms of doing the complete process analysis aspect of it to understand the throughput, as well as ensure that there are no bottlenecks during the entire flow of the process itself. So yes.
Okay, great. If we can have last words from everyone, and Vijay, then we can conclude the webinar.
Okay, great. So let's have a few final comments. Saibal, maybe start with you. You had a very strong futuristic outlook on how things will pan out. Could you add on to that in terms of how you see 5G evolving and how it will help all our enterprises in industrial sector? Any final comments on that?
Though I'm not a crystal ball reader, but I'll try to be one. So just the perspective I've had, let me tell you. And I was hearing Smriti as well as Anup, and the pertinent perspectives which are coming out is that somebody, even in Sanjeev was talking about that, you have trust in the technology, but definitely there's a cost prohibitiveness is there. That's a challenge. So how will you deploy that? And of course, there's a cohort which is perhaps, people are not collaborative enough. That's another big which is there. So if I may say, and there are various people doing various parts to this. So if as an organization you want to deploy it, you will have to circumvent around various partners to get that particular application running, because there has to be a compute here, there has to be an edge compute here, there has to be connectivity here, there has to be so many, if you have to see the entire wheel running, there are various parts for this wheel to run. And so to tell you frankly, that we definitely have cracked that particular puzzle. And maybe on the road, everybody knows as a mobility player. But as Airtel, we definitely, with 5G coming in, because the entire business case is all about B2B. Nothing is there, perhaps, from a 5G standpoint in the retail space. So in the B2B space, also, let me tell you, there are two industries which are going to, get into a different level of operations. One is definitely manufacturing, because the entire, and with the geopolitical scenarios which are getting very, very advantageous for India, this definitely will become a manufacturing hub, which is pretty natural. With that also coming into being, this is one sector which is definitely proliferating from a 5G standpoint. And the second thing is the healthcare. So these are the two industries, if I may say, industry vertical, which are going to get the maximum benefit of 5G, and perhaps the entire how do you do the industry 4.0 automation. So with this industry 4.0 automation, what you generally need, one is, do you have a Spock and who can make all things happen for you? So let me tell you, we have that answer. Airtel can do all that, right from edge compute, right from creating the network, doing the entire SI job for you, and making that particular thing happen with SaaS platform available. So if I may say that way, that today what we've actually done is we are actually a minute factory, right? We can give you networks which is on minutes, which is on, that's the model which we have done. So when we will deploy a connectivity in that spectrum, culled out spectrum in that particular space, suppose we create a private network, because that's the most biggest essence. Let me tell you, for any application to run, if you don't have a quality network, you cannot run. There will be a problem. There will be challenges. And it will be a very, today there are various shapes of IoT happening, but this is all in various parts. It is not a complete ecosystem which is there in a particular factory to take the business advantage. So with that, what we've actually cracked is that we have both the models available from a cost standpoint, that because we will be connecting all machines primarily. So, and that will be on SIMs. And with that particular network, which is the culled out spectrum network there are two perspectives to this, two models. One is a capital intensive model, which is, it depends upon what is the, benefit, or what is the drive you have, or what is the appetite you have. If you want to look at, there are many organizations who like to look at a capital intensive. But the other model is that we can do a 5-year TCO, and we can break it down to every connected machine. So it's a usage based, it's a fixed operating cost model. So it's not that you are going to do completely put in the cost intensive at very first inset, because that's also a prohibitive perspective. We really don't know how this, ROI is going to be there. Somebody talked about ROI. I think Sanjeev, we talked about ROI, right? So the ROI is also a big concern, that we are putting that much of money. Where is the ROI? Where is the money coming from? So biggest perspective here is that this cost modeling, we've been able to crack it, and we can make things happen for you. It could be both ways. It could be on an monthly basis. It could be on a capital intensive basis. Choice is depending on completely on the customer as such. So I think with that particular thing being into availability being there, I think that prohibitive factor will not be there. Of course, we will have to talk about technology and all, but with this entire advent being there today, because technology, the SI part, the platform part, the edge compute part, if anybody and everybody can take care, perhaps a service provider is perhaps at the best, epicenter of making things happen. And we definitely have that particular epicenter which we can make things happen. And I can assure you, and perhaps the entire forum out here, this is going to go change further, because at the end of the day, what will drive it is obviously the volumes. We have volumes in the country, and the cost will be driven down. That's pretty sure. That's pretty natural, because if the costs don't drive down, this proliferation will not happen. And with the entire geopolitical perspective also coming in, I'm sure we are definitely going to a different level altogether. So
Thanks, Mr. Roy. We are running out of time. I'm sorry. We will have to get to the other panelists also.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, Sanjeev, last comments from you. I'd like to ask you to get your crystal ball out and make some predictions for the space.
So last comments is that, if you want to adopt a digital twin, don't look, it's a big picture that you have to see, but you have to take tiny steps. You have to get ready with smaller pieces and then move towards maturity. So you have to get some initial things ready, such as first get to the current state as a state, then move on to advanced levels of a digital twin. But if you're trying to boil the ocean by doing everything at the same time, that might lead to you getting bogged down by the realization of the ROI immediately. So take smaller baby steps and move towards maturity. So that's my thought.
Okay, and finally, Anu, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'll just summarize for industry or for government or as a whole India, digitalization or adopting this technology is not a choice. It is a necessity now. And we have a right ecosystem now. Government is supporting, solution provider is supporting, startup ecosystem is there, cost is going to be down further. Only thing is industry need to understand what are their main point, identify those critical points, critical data points to start digitizing. And then slowly they will understand what is the real ROI. ROI, I see the challenge, but when you see little longer picture, identify hidden costs in the organization, then I feel ROI is not a challenge for this. If you have the right partners and the right data point identify, right roadmap identify for a digitalization. With that, I'll maybe finish my comment.
Okay, thank you, Anup. And Smriti, finally over to you.
Thanks, Vijay. So I think in general, digitization is a great opportunity for industries to have data-driven decision-making, which is just beneficial in terms of costs and operations and time. So there are huge benefits to this, whether it's simple, small, automated changes to digital twins. Apart from that, in terms of implementing sophisticated concepts like digital twins, I do believe we need corresponding infrastructure, something that both Saibal and Sanjeev touched upon. And buy-in has to be holistic, right? So you do need to have the right partners, you do have to have the right cultural mindset, or you have to make that shift in your organization to make sure people are ready to adopt this for the long term. And apart from that, in terms of adopting a solution, I do believe that they have to be easy enough for the masses so that it can be scalable. So those are my points on this topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Smriti. And with that, I'd like to thank all of you for being part of this wonderful discussion. Very insightful comments and lots for us to take back home. And I'm sure our attendees also loved hearing your comments and ideas on this space. Sujata, over to you.
Thank you, Vijay, for moderating this wonderful session, and thank you all the panel members. So with Industry 4.0, it brought us smarter and more connected machines in the workplace. Now Industry 5.0 is going one step further by merging those cognitive computing capabilities with human intelligence and resourcefulness in a collaborative operation. So looking forward to a very eventful future that we are going to have when it comes to digitalization and digitization. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend and have a wonderful evening.